Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, we hear from the head of Elanco about the company's huge plans in Indy. A Hoosier company is making pet treats out of fly larvae. An Indiana business becomes a major player in the PPE industry. IndyCar looks to get more diverse. The Indianapolis Opera looks to update its historic home. IU's Grand Challenges Initiative takes on substance abuse. And the International School of Indiana realizes a 25-year dream. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. While Elanco Animal Health's decision to build its new global headquarters in Indianapolis at the former GM stamping plant will likely spur transformational change in the downtown area, the $300 million deal also has statewide implications. Chief Executive Officer Jeff Simmons joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk about the potential economic implications throughout the Hoosier state.
This, again, a highly anticipated deal, a big deal for Indiana. All indications that we're receiving, it got down to Indianapolis and Kansas City for that final decision. Jeff, as you look at it, when everything, you blow all the smoke away, what were really the deciding factors in choosing Indianapolis and Indiana for this big investment?
Yeah, well, without question, we're coming up on 7 full decades of history here as mostly a division of Eli Lilly and Company. And so Indiana has been our home, and that's a big part of this. But I think as we really a credit to Governor Holcomb and Secretary Schillinger, as well as Mayor Hogsett, their offices, their teams, Indiana truly made all efforts to make this very, very easy for us in terms of this being the ideal place. And then, yes, the location. Moving into Indianapolis, when we think about talent capabilities, we can talk about what we want from this campus. It excites us to move to the west side of the river in the city as well and be part of that community. So a lot of things coming together and bigger partners like Purdue and Agrinovus as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that the city and state heavy involvement, of course. How about that involvement by Purdue? How important to have that world-class ag institution and tech institution on board in this project?
Yeah, I mean, what Mitch Daniels and Purdue University are doing we look globally at academics, research, the talent. We hire a lot of Purdue talent. They're out on the forefront in all regards, and so a tremendous collaboration effort. We've had a long history with Purdue, and we'll continue that, and a lot of alumni even in our leadership. I think, Gary, the other big driver here is we look at this campus and we think about what we want to do. A lot of this was driven by a significant transformation in Elanco. We're 67 years old as a company. We've spun out of Eli Lilly the last couple of years, become a New York Stock Exchange independent company, quickly then acquired Bayer. And so really since 2007, we're 4 times bigger. We're in 19 species of animals, where back when I started, it was, cattle and pigs and poultry. We're very big in pets. We're big in retail and through the vet clinics. So the complexity of this really made us have to look at a campus of the future. And Purdue will play a role in that. But that campus of the future has to be one that ideates, that collaborates, that creates innovation. And we did a post-COVID work study as well to look at what our needs are. And then to be able to bring partners in. It has to become a destination. Ultimately, our bigger vision is that on the west side of that river in Indianapolis, on this campus, we want to create a epicenter that actually, for the 19 species of animals and the health and the well-being of those animals, we create the innovation and the history we've had, manufacturing, as well as new capabilities, artificial intelligence, the microbiome, some of the research, as well as even the digital, the ability to reach and be the bridge to over 100 countries and the multitude of animals that we serve.
Very ambitious plan, certainly, and it extends beyond Indianapolis. I know your major manufacturing operations in Clinton are part of the investment announcement, and you're also looking at research and development operations going forward as well, focused, centered here in Indiana.
Yeah, that's correct. A long history. We've got facilities in Clinton and Terre Haute, and in downtown Indianapolis some. So the goal now is to actually create, and, as we look at, the post-COVID work environment, just completed a future of work study. And I think this is important, Gary, as we want something that is smaller, that is smarter, but has a campus feel. It's a destination. A study of our global employees say that, 70% of our employees don't expect to be in the office every day. We need an open, collaborative environment that creates, the ability to be a destination for our global employees. The other thing we've noticed is with COVID, the floodgates are open on talent. With a more virtual world, but a great destination like Indianapolis, you can attract talent now, we believe, at another level. And so our ability now to be one of the top attractors of talent, animal health is a very hot space right now. And we believe life sciences and the history of the ag bioscience that Indiana brings, this brings a big opportunity to bring another level of talent into Elanco as well as into Indiana.
A major deal for Elanco and for Indiana, of course. Elanco CEO Jeff Simmons, great to see you as always. I know we'll be talking a lot more with you about this going forward. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. Be safe.
Madison County-based Scout and Zoe's latest pet treat product is made with fly larvae. While that sounds less than appetizing for us, it's part of the booming company's mission to create safe and healthy dog and cat treats. In addition, they're packaged and labeled by individuals with intellectual disabilities in Anderson. Chief Executive Officer Cindy Dunstan joined us with details.
It's been a while since we've talked, but your company is an amazing story. Launched 10 years ago, 2010, really out of a passion by you, and you've created quite an operation there. Go back 10 years, how you started the company.
Started the company in 2010 as a way to solve a chew issue for my dog Zoe, and we only had black soldier flies. We had elk antlers at the time. Mm-hmm. We had 5 sizes of elk antlers, and we did very, very well with that. And then in about 2012, I diverted into treats along with the elk antlers because Chinese chicken jerky was killing a lot of animals, a lot of pets. And boy, it's taken off since then. And now treats are about 85-90% of our revenue. And we specialize in very, very unique treats for not only dogs, but cats, horses, and reptiles and amphibians and small animals.
Yeah, very interesting. And you mentioned a niche products that you have, wholesaling all over the country, actually exporting outside of the United States as well. Nearly 10,000 customers. You've grown exponentially over the years. And again, these are products that you say are good for animals, but you also want to make sure they're good for the environment. That's this new product, Superfly Black Soldier Larva. What is that, and why does it make sense for this new product line?
It's a great product. It's made out of black soldier fly larvae, and they look like mealworms. If you've ever fed bluebirds, then you know what a mealworm is, but they grow very quickly. These are all domestic. They're grown in the United States. They feed on waste from restaurants, so they're actually cleaning up the earth while feeding our animals. They have less gaseous emissions, they use less water, they have a very, very small carbon footprint, and it takes a fraction of the land to produce millions of black soldier fly larvae than it would, say, cattle or pigs or chickens or turkeys. So, I mean, it's hugely great for the earth, but especially nutritious for dogs and cats and birds and chickens and reptiles and amphibians. Yeah. So, I mean, all the gamut of all these animals. It's a great product set.
Very quickly, Cindy, we're out of time, but you're using Asian carp. I mean, it gives you an idea. I know we have some video of that. Some of the products you're making it out of unique materials, if you will.
Yeah, the Asian carp is wonderful because it's we're trying to save the Great Lakes one treat at a time so that they don't take over the waterways. And it's an invasive non-native species, and we're turning them into tasty treats.
All right. Cindy Dunstan Quirk, amazing story. Scout and Zoe's Anderson-based company doing great things in the pet treat business. Cindy, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Rensselaer-based American Melt Blown and Filtration specializes in manufacturing filtration and oil-absorbent products for heavy-duty uses. Like so many companies, it changed direction when the pandemic hit and has created a startup called Indiana Face Mask to meet the growing demand for PPE. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redman has the story from Jasper County.
There continues to be a major shortage of N95 masks and PPE materials in countries across the globe. But one family-owned manufacturer in Rensselaer is hoping to change that. Indiana face mask is the brainchild of 25-year-old Clayton Geyer, who realized at the beginning of the pandemic that his dad's company, American Meltblown Infiltration, was perfectly positioned to produce these in-demand products.
There's only about 5 companies in the United States that actually have the capabilities to make that material, us being one of them. So when the pandemic started, we were phoning anywhere from 50 to 100 phone calls a day from people trying to get the material.
A material his dad Fred has been manufacturing for over a decade at American Meltblown Infiltration. And since the onset of the pandemic, an extremely scarce commodity.
Just spurred into, well, why don't we get the machines ourselves, since we already have the hardest part taken care of. So it wasn't a big leap for us. The biggest thing was actually getting the building ready.
And getting it ready in just a month's time. After significant investment, Geyer was able to convert this abandoned Jasper County warehouse into a federally approved PPE production facility.
There you go.
After getting all scrubbed up, Geyer gave me an exclusive look inside the operation.
And it's been a slow but steady process, getting more machines, getting more people, getting our certifications.
Just last week, Indiana Face Mask received federal approval to manufacture and distribute medical-grade N95 masks.
There's, I believe, now 28 to 30 companies worldwide who are actually certified to make an N95 mask. And again, yeah, we're one of them.
This looks like just a normal mask. I didn't realize it was extra special and that much more protective. So this is what?
So this Meltblown is charged. All of your bugs, all your particulate would get caught to it. When you can actually just take a magnet to it, it'll actually get pulled towards the magnet.
In this diagram, the subject counts from 1 to 10. You can see how easily droplets are able to penetrate someone wearing no mask, a 1 or 2 layer cloth mask versus a surgical mask. The second diagram shows droplets expelled while the subject is sneezing. Now for our own experiment, their surgical face mask versus my 2-layer cloth mask.
All right, let's test this baby.
So it's 25% efficient. So 75% of everything you're breathing, you put right through the mask.
And the results for Geyer's surgical face mask?
We've got 1.77% penetration.
The state of Indiana is on fire.
So it's no surprise Governor Holcomb and the state have contracted Indiana face masks indefinitely.
The state of Indiana has agreed, hey, we'll pretty much buy anything that you guys can produce for the next 10 years. Even if we put in another 5-10 machines, we would just be able to do what Indiana has asked of us, to be able to actually save lives. It's kind of a good feeling. I'm going to make all those really long work hours worth it.
IndyCar and Team Penske are looking to level the playing field for minorities interested in a career in racing. As part of the Racing for Equity and Change initiative, Team Penske will mentor a new entry in the IndyCar USF 2000 Ladder Series that will be owned by a black business person. Force Indy team principal Ron Reed shares details with Bill Benner on Inside Indiana Sports.
Roger Penske hitting the ground running in every conceivable way, and the Race for Equality and Change announced in July, and now really putting some action into that initiative with this launch of the new team. Talk about how this all came about.
Well, we were very fortunate to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the NXG Youth Motorsports for the last almost 15 years. And when Roger Penske took over the track, took over the series, we had a chance to meet and to sit down and talk about what that meant for us and for the Speedway. And he thought, hey, we've got a sponsorship here and we've got a support with your organization. Why did this come about? And so I shared with him that our desire and my desire to do a race team like I did back in the 80s was something I would like to revisit. And he thought that would be good to help be a pipeline for those coming into the sport.
And again, we've seen other examples, Bubba Wallace, NASCAR, Lewis Hamilton, Formula One. But for IndyCar, you go back to Willie T. Ribbs. I mean, women have made inroads, obviously, in the IndyCar series, but you got to go all the way back to Willie T. Ribbs. So this is really, again, putting some definitive action and a plan that will eventually, hopefully, bring minorities to the cockpit.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges has been in the past, the initiatives that have focused so much on, as you just mentioned, the cockpit, didn't really look at getting African Americans involved in all aspects of racing. My background, I'm not a race car driver, but I've always been behind the scenes and doing management, sponsor development, and so forth. And so I think that's why this seems to be very sustainable, because we're looking at it as a whole, more horizontally than just getting a driver to be in the 500.
And Rod, I mean, with the NXG initiative, you have developed engineers, mechanics. I mean, you put it into practice, and you've made it happen.
Yeah, we have. We've had over 2,000 kids in the NXG Youth Motorsports program, and two of the people that I brought up through that program started when they were 12 years old. Are going to be a mechanic, an engineer, and others on the team, and we start Force Indy.
As we wrap up, let's look ahead. You're currently in North Carolina near Team Penske. You're getting support and all kinds of assistance from Team Penske. But we look ahead, and the hope is that the number 99, that beautiful car, will be part of the series, the step ladder series, when they hit the track for IndyCar in St. Pete in March. Yes, the USF 2000 is the series, and we're going to be ready to go. We've got all the equipment that we need, and we're getting the mentorship from Roger Penske, and all we need to do now is to perform well. Well, Rod Reed, again, the principal for Team Force Indy. This is, again, a very exciting initiative, long overdue, and we wish you the best, and we can't wait to see your team in action in St. Petersburg in March. Thanks for being on the program. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. For the past decade, the Indianapolis Opera has called the historic Basile Opera Center in the Meridian Kessler neighborhood home. The 46-year-old organization has thrived during that time, thanks to the generosity of the community, and it's now looking to raise more money for improvements to the building. Indianapolis Opera General Director David Starkey joined us with more on the campaign.
Well, we'll talk about the campaign, but first, the history, the heritage of the Indianapolis Opera, nearly 5 decades. But even during this pandemic and in challenging times, these past several years, things have been going pretty well for the opera.
It has, from the standpoint of we're learning how to grow into a 21st century arts organization, which couples arts and business as a plan to coincide these things simultaneously. We're coming out of some very 20th century business models. This company has been in some really great successful strides. It's also had some very challenging times in its 46th history. But we are learning, and in fact, we're growing, and that's an amazing accomplishment in these times. But it's a very humbling position for us to be in.
Yeah, it really is an amazing story, and again, in these challenging times. Talk about this campaign. You've had improvements to the Opera Center over the past number of years, but you're looking to really step that up with this campaign and add some enhancements as well.
Right. This all started almost 12 to maybe even 15 years ago with the dreams and the visions of John Pickett and James Carraher and an amazing board of directors back in that time period of the early 2000s and late 2015s. And we were able to continue to keep that dream alive. Even though some things back in the 2000s did not really quite come together, but it became a new relationship because they then joined forces with philanthropist Bill Osterly and with the community with the help of Indiana Landmarks and others of the Meridian Kessler neighborhood. And what happened was considerably what seemed to be failure back then has been actually the building blocks for us to be able to arrive to this time now where we are on the verge of being able to solidify the funding through our amazing funders of the Lilly Endowment and the Clues Family Foundation, Alan Whitehall's Clues, and now also some major philanthropy contributors in our community that have been alongside us. I'm almost just along for the ride, Gary. It's really an amazing time to be a part of this and be a part of this in this time. It was not necessarily our plan, but some things had to happen back in 2019 for us to continue to be here. And the community wanted us here, the arts community. It's really just a growing dream that is going to really come together.
Yeah, I know you're doing a lot of great things there, David. If you would comment, because there's such a connection between arts and culture, the arts and cultural community, and business, and the ability for Indianapolis or any community really to keep business, to keep talent, attract new talent here. Talk about that connection and why I think a lot of people would argue it's more important now than ever before.
Well, I've spent my career of 25, 30 years trying to tell the story of how important singing and music is in one's life. And there's just no other way to describe it when you don't have it. Literally, the world is going to not be able to watch the live performances of opera or Handel's Messiah or whatever is happening in this time period of these seasons. And now people are hungrier and more vibrant than ever for music, and especially singing, because it's so personal to everybody. That's where the Indianapolis Opera comes in, because it's part of the fabric of the vocal arts of our community. And Indianapolis is a world-class international city. Opera is part of that food chain. And I would say that opera is actually top of the food chain on when it looks at how it has to be involved with business, how it has to be involved with arts, and especially with culture. Opera is the cultural diversity art form. We talk about and sing about and do presentations about stories from literally every single culture around the world. And that is the opportunity that we are absolutely needing to embrace, not only from culture, but also 21st century practices in business and arts simultaneously.
David Starkey is the general director of the Indianapolis Opera. David, thanks for joining us. A lot of great things going on at the Opera. I know this campaign is going to lead to even more improvements. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful holiday season.
9 months into the pandemic, a growing number of people are experiencing depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. New Albany-based Heart to Heart Wellness Center is expanding its footprint to help. Founder and clinical director Glenita Bell talked about it with Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health.
All right, well, you have been a cognitive behavioral therapist for more than a decade. Explain the stigma that sometimes comes with mental health therapy and how your center really works to reverse that.
Yes, it's really unfortunate that for some reason, people taking time to prioritize their mental health can become stigmatized that they are somehow unbalanced or defective in some way. And the reality is that is so far from the truth. Being preventative in your mental health is just as important as being preventative in your physical health. So I wanted to create a wellness center where we had layers of self-care services such as therapy, yoga, massage, our meditation, as well as our nurse practitioner services. So people could have an enjoyable wellness experience where they were able to prioritize their self-care.
Well, even we can see in the shot behind you, such a beautiful place you have there. Like you mentioned, yoga, massage. So your business model is really built on this like spa-like atmosphere. So then COVID hits and you have to shut down doing everything in person. But explain how that opened the virtual door for you.
With the pandemic hitting, we initially, it was going to be a short period of time. And once we realized it wasn't, we had to make sure that we were able to provide services for our clients. And it was very important that we kept our standard of care as well as our holistic approach. So it took a bit of research of finding out which platforms were going to allow us to structure and shape things the best way that we could to provide a good service for our clientele. And we were able to get all of our services offered virtually, which we're really excited about.
So you have therapy online, and the big news now is you're adding yoga back online as well, so people can do their yoga virtually too. So explain this new virtual platform. Also has a special focus on Indianapolis and Louisville. Explain that.
Absolutely. So we're doing our yoga, our nurse practitioner services, as well as meditation classes online. So our whole gamut of services are on our virtual footprint now. And I wanted to start close to home Being in Southern Indiana, we're close to Indianapolis and have connection there, but we're also close to Kentucky. So the goal is for our company to be able to have a reach that is regional eventually. And I'm really shooting for the stars, and I'd love to see mental wellness be so accessible the way that we're doing it across the nation one day.
And it's a beautiful center you have there. I know massage therapy is still happening there since that's one-on-one. You have seen higher demand during the pandemic, and I think such an important part of that you mentioned to me off camera is that's for all ages. You've seen the need grow. Explain that.
Sure. You are seeing small children because of the schedule shifts and changes, and they're able to go to school and then school's closing, and that increases anxiety in little bodies. We're seeing it with teenagers, although they're able to understand what's happening around them. It is still very scary. So you're seeing an increase in depression and anxiety with them. And of course, with adults that are now managing not only their full-time jobs, but teaching children from home, as well as whatever financial fallouts, as well as emotional fallouts that are coming from this pandemic. And we're also seeing people that haven't directly had any spikes in something diagnosable. I think people often feel like it has to be some severe issue, but we're seeing people that are realizing through this pandemic that your mental health can be quite fragile, and people wanting to learn preventative self-care skills to prevent that in the future.
All right. Well, Glenita, congratulations on the expansion and good luck. And we'll check back in with you maybe when you're able to open your doors again.
Thank you so much, Kylie.
Over the past 4 years, Indiana University's Grand Challenges Initiative has led researchers to seek innovative solutions to quality of life issues for Hoosiers. The university is now partnering with Next Level Recovery to address substance abuse throughout the state. Next Level Recovery Executive Director Doug Hunsinger came on the show to talk about the partnership.
You know, there's been a lot said and written about the opioid crisis, substance abuse and substance use, and those big issues for the state, how critical it is. A big human toll, to be sure, also an economic toll on the state. As we begin our conversation, give us an idea. I mean, how substantial does this challenge continue to be?
Yeah, well, thanks to the work of some IU economists, we know that there is a $4 billion economic toll that this crisis has taken. And we know that COVID-19 has not made this any better. So we're really looking forward. And as the vaccine has begun to be rolled out, we're really looking at how we can get our treatment centers back online, back to full capacity, to ensure that we're doing everything we can to first and foremost treat people who are suffering with substance use disorder.
Yeah, Doug, I want to ask you about that, and that's the pandemic's impact on your efforts. What has that impact been?
Yeah, so back in April, we began to see our naloxone administrations with EMS and overdoses within emergency departments increase. And immediately we took action. We have dedicated $1 million that's funding 25,000 doses of naloxone. We've already distributed over 13,000 of those doses. And I would attribute that to why our overdose rate is not climbing at the same rate as that of our neighboring states.
Yeah, and you've mentioned, as we talked off camera before this interview, you talked a little bit about your mission, your focus as it relates to workforce changing just a little bit.
Yeah, you know, before COVID, we had record low unemployment, and our focus was really on, in the employer space, how can we get employers to ensure that their workforce is healthy, not just with the substance use disorder, but also with mental health, and ensuring that there was adequate treatment for those employees and pathways for employers to understand how to look for warning signs and how to create programs in which they could incentivize their employees to take advantage of treatment opportunities.
You've got big challenges. Big challenges, obviously, for you and others working on this challenge. The Grand Challenges Initiative at Indiana University presents you, or certainly has presented you, I think, with a unique tool to combat that. Talk about how this major research institution, with its Grand Challenges Initiative, how that's impacting your efforts.
Yeah, well, we were really happy that Indiana University came on board as a partner early on in our fight. You know, Governor Holcomb has made combating the drug epidemic a top priority. And IU's really brought their expertise in not just research, but in community development and those academics who are able to provide the analysis. We often say around here that our best solutions are implemented and developed at the local level. And we're really here to facilitate that. So IU has done a wonderful job of convening people and providing experts all across the state in communities large and small as they look to help provide solutions and help communities combat the epidemic in their own backyard.
I know IU, and through its Grand Challenges initiative, has made the point this is very much an initiative that is statewide, and that really couples up or coincides with this drug abuse, substance use challenge. It's a statewide initiative. It's not just rural communities. It's urban, rural communities of all sizes.
Absolutely. I'm really have the pleasure to serve on a research team with Dr. Matt Alsma, who they're looking at substance use disorder in the juvenile justice system. It's across 10 counties in the state, all varying degrees of population and resources. And their goal is really to begin to develop interventions and treatment modalities that can hopefully reduce recidivism. This is just one project in the larger, grand challenge that is going to have a really meaningful and lasting impact on our state.
Doug Hunsinger is the executive director of Next Level Recovery, and certainly an organization working closely with IU and its Grand Challenges initiative to make a difference in Indiana. Doug, thanks for joining us, and thanks, too, for the work that you do.
And finally this week, the International School of Indiana is celebrating the culmination of a 25-year dream after breaking ground on its new Chen Family Lower School. The $13.5 million school will create a single unified campus. Head of school Elizabeth Head explained how the expansion is part of a bigger vision for the school in our Eye on Education segment.
Yeah, I mentioned this is the school was launched, the International School, 26 years ago. So this has really been a dream for the school from day one, but really for the past 12 years, a real focus on this lower school project. Talk about the vision, what this brings, what this means to the school.
The International School of Indiana was founded 26 years ago. And of course, from day one, the dream was to be on a unified campus. And slowly but surely, the campus has been built up. And the final piece needed to fully unify on one campus at Michigan Road is this lower school building from age 3 through grade 5. There are so many benefits, not just to the school itself, but to our community at large here in Indiana and even the Midwest. If we look specifically at the school, of course, there are benefits to having high quality facilities with our world-class education, for the increased collaboration of students, of staff, of families, the whole community on one campus. But the much bigger picture is the benefit to the region, to the Midwest. ISI is the only school in the entire Midwest that offers the full language immersion, the full international baccalaureate curriculum, and by doing so attracts talent for the workforce of Indiana from all around the world. At such a crucial time of global mobility and the challenges the world is facing right now in global mobility, the International School is precisely located here in Indiana as a real asset to the state to not only attract talent, but also to attract foreign investment, to create a global community with a hub here in Indiana that not only attracts talent, but then develops international and global mindedness in its students to then build the workforce here in Indiana with the students that graduate from the International School. So having this school finally consolidated on one unified campus benefits everyone in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I think you bring up a good point, is that business connection between the school and the business community and state of Indiana. Business leaders really were part of founding the school a number of years ago. Talk about the importance and how the school really does play an important role in what is now an ever more so a global economy, and Indiana playing a part of that.
This is key. 26 years ago, a group of corporate, civic, and business partners said, how do we help Indiana stand out on a national level? How do we help Indiana not only compete among the other states in the United States, but how do we help Indiana attract foreign investment above and beyond what other states are doing and attract talent with the workforce gap that we know exists? How can Indiana compete? And 26 years ago, a group of visionaries saw Indiana as a hub of global mindedness. In fact, in the United States, there are fewer than 10 states that have an international school. So Indiana should be very proud because Indiana can talk to the rest of the world in ways that most states can't in terms of attracting their workforce. Because not only do you attract the employee, you attract the full company because you can take care of their entire family, provide a community for that entire family where that family feels comfortable, can set down roots, and actually build into the workforce, into the future of Indiana. And that's all by attracting one employee at a time. That was the vision 26 years ago. That's why the school has a full language immersion program in French, Mandarin, and Spanish. That's why it recruits teachers from all around the world to do native speaking teaching. That's why it has an international curriculum considered the gold standard curriculum, because all that does is attract families, the best families from around the world, to a state like Indiana.
Very quickly, we only have about 20 seconds left, Elizabeth, but Stan and Allison Chen, the lead gift on this, but I think representative of the business and community leaders coming together to financially support this expansion.
What a special group of families. You know, we have founding families from the past 26 years that have given to this campaign. Sydney Terrell, Doug Brown, David Cosine, so many more, but also now this new generation, Stanley and Allison Chen giving $1.5 million, the Denary family giving $1 million, and then so many other community partners and ISI families committed to building the legacy into the future. So we're just so excited about this community that we've been building.
Elizabeth Head, the head of school at the International School of Indiana. Major news there with an expansion on the campus that will have impact, I know, for a number of years. Elizabeth, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.